Everybody wants to be identified with glamour. Everybody wants to be identified with sweet. But at the root of everything sweet is sweat. Perhaps you have not tried this before. When next you sweat, especially from your face, try to taste it. It will be turned into sweet. So behind everything sweet is sweat. Sweat is a cause when God is not behind it. But it is mandatory, it is necessary for man to sweat. Every man's dignity is tied to his work. It is better to be a laborer in a construction site than to be found on the street with good dress and no work, with comb in your pocket, combing your hair, with no identified work that you are doing. Every man's respect is tied to his work. Don't you see that even culturally speaking, next to your family is your work? When people greet you, the first thing they ask you is, how is your family? And the next thing is, how is your work? Because it is expected that even culturally, everyone should be working. Whether as an employee or as a self-employed person. And as a matter of fact, also culturally speaking, your true measure of responsibility is work. That is to say, people don't count you as responsible if you are not working. People don't hold you in regard and esteem and as a dignified person except you are working. Truly, man's dignity is tied to his work. Every working nation is a dignified nation. A lot of us seated here perhaps this morning travel around the world, and you know what I'm talking about. If you go to the West, for instance, you see how people walk. It impresses you. You feel happy. You feel like in a living environment. I've traveled a few times to a number of African nations, and you see a lot of idleness, which is the breeding ground for poverty. Wherever there is idleness, there is bound to be poverty. Poverty is the first child of idleness. You can't be idle and escape poverty. In a particular nation in Africa, the first time I got there, I saw people lying down under the sun like lizards. They have all kinds of break. They have lunch break, they have tea break, they have coffee break. Whosoever allows idleness in your life has introduced you to slavery. Because the portion of an idle man is slavery. There is no way an idle man can get to the top. There is dignity in labor. That you wake up in the morning and you are known to be working. It dignifies your life. From what scripture shows to us, nothing works without work. Behind everything working is a worker. Because according to scriptures in Hebrews chapter 3 verse 4, he said, and every house is built by someone. Every business is worked by someone. When you see a working business, you should find out who is behind it, making it to work. Every house. So there is no miracle house, miracle in quote. No house jumps down from heaven. Every business that is working is being worked out by someone that is behind it. There is something around your life that is about to work, and you are receiving grace to work it out today. Nothing works without work, not even the grace of God. The grace of God is common to all in appearance, but it works only for workers. Paul the apostle speaking in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 from verses 10 to 12. I am what I am by the grace of God. So the grace of God is what enlists you. We receive enlistment into the kingdom by the grace of God, but we make our marks in the kingdom by our works. The grace of God enlists us in the kingdom, but we make our marks in the kingdom by our works. I am what I am by the grace of God. That's what Paul said. He said, but this is one thing I have done that made me to excel above all of them. He said, I labor more than all them all. I labor. He said, yet not I, but the grace of God. The grace of God starts you off, and then you continue the journey with labor. And the more you labor, the more the grace, and the more the grace that you labor with, the more the grace. So grace continues to multiply with work. If you want to see a man for whom grace is working, look for a man that is working. People have come around here, for instance, and lifting up their eyes in the awesomeness of the act of God. They say, well, there is no better way to explain this but the grace of God. That is true. The grace of God. But the grace of God is being put to work by the hand of someone who chooses to work it out. There is no way an idle man can escape this grace. If you want grace to work, then you must work. There is no substitute to work. Not even divine guidance. If you look at the story of Isaac in Genesis chapter 26, God directed Isaac to stay back in Gerar. But staying in Gerar wasn't enough for him to prosper. The Bible tells us that Isaac went into work. So even when you are guided by God, you don't have a guarantee to be blessed, except you walk in the place where he has guided you. So work has no substitute. The grace of God is a complement, not a substitute to work. Divine guidance is a complement, not a substitute to work. Scriptural principles don't have substitutes. They all work as it were in a synergy. They work together. If you're a worker, you are not a giver. The blessing cannot be complete. If you're a giver, you are not a worker. The blessing cannot be complete. So all of it has to be put together. You have the grace of God, you must work. You have divine guidance, you must work. Work has no substitute.